Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today, Theta is continuing its march higher. This is exactly what we wanted to see. I didn't think it would happen that fast, but hey, I will take it. It is happening quicker than expected. A beautiful sight to see. Obviously, one of the ideas was yesterday, hey, this thing can get up and go quickly. We got the weekly close on yesterday. So the week closed right here. This candle right here. This is the important candle right here. And I was able to get a video out before the close, which was good. Talking about, hey, if we close above this, 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 then that validates a breakout from this inverse head and shoulders pattern, from this Wyckoff accumulation pattern, and then we can either have a little pullback, a little back test, or we're going to continue marching right up to what is that? $1.68, $1.65 area. So right now we're at $1.68. That's exactly what we talked about. I think I remember talking about it back over here, some type of inverse. Let me see if I can find that video. I think that was like 3 months ago. Hold on one second. Okay, I found the video. It's called Theta Token equals 8+% today. What now? So here we go. And sort of this rounding bottom. So we have this rounding bottom, but it's only halfway there, right? If I go straight up, it doesn't really make sense. But if I continue rounding about, then it makes more sense. We want to see a nice rounded bottom. Okay, so how do we get that rounded bottom? Well, first off, I'm starting to see, and I saw this before, but I didn't want to say anything because I'm not too sure. But this to me is starting to look like an inverse head and shoulder. So you have your shoulder, you have your head, and now we're coming up to the resistance, and then we're going to get another shoulder. So, and then we come up, maybe back test the line, and then we march it to the upside. So that was 3 months ago. So if you've been following the channel, you know that's what was been thinking. Obviously, there was different ideas, but that was primarily the main idea because I talked about. I think I tweeted it out 3 months ago, basically giving a green path, a purple path, and a red path, and I was leaning towards the purple path, and I'll show you that now. And you say, well, what does this have to do with what's happening now and where we're going? Well, it's going to make sense because now the important part is now we can rule out what it's not. Remember what I've said. Charts are about not knowing exactly where it's going to go and when it's going to go. It's about where it's not going to go. It's about figuring out the probabilities of what is possible. And then for me, the main thing is ruling out what it's not. So there was an idea here, going back all the way back over here, saying there are three ideas. Idea number one, which is, the purple path, where we come back up, we break out, we have a big correction, or wasn't a big correction, but it was a right shoulder. Then we continue breaking out and continuing to rock. That was the idea I was leaning towards because it was conservative. It wasn't too extremely bullish and it wasn't too extremely bearish. It was right in the middle, and that's where I like to stay. So the red path was simply saying this is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But that got invalidated. Why? Because we took out this wave. We came up and we took out this wave. So boom, we don't have to worry about that. Now it only comes down to two ideas. So what are those two ideas? The green path or the purple path. So the green path said this. We come up, right? We have maybe a little pullback, but basically we break out. And then we back test and play around, and then we continue going. That did not happen. But who cares? Like I've said, it doesn't matter because this one broke out and now this one's breaking out, and it looks like the same amount of time the way I've drawn it. Now, the way I drew it based on time 3 months ago was totally off. It happened way sooner than I thought, which is actually a pleasant surprise. You want to be pleasantly surprised rather than getting your expectations too high and then having it not met, and then you get bitter about it or whatever. So now we can rule out the green path. Because why? Because it came down here and it back tested the bull market support band. And that's it. And then once that happened, right? Once we back tested that, that's where the make it or break it came in. This is the do or die situation right in here. Yes, I did say we had plenty of wiggle room. If we did lose this um, area in here, I was hoping we didn't, but if we did, worst case scenario, we have this back test over here, which is a little lower, and even worse case than that, we have another back test over here. So this is our resistance. We break out, we can come all the way and back test it, or we break out of this one, we come down back. We didn't back test any of them. That's fine. Why? Because we back tested something much more important than that, which is the bull market support band. Not only did we back test it, but this was 1 week, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's 5 weeks of charging your batteries. I've always said, think about the price like a electric car, right? And it can't go very far without coming back down and going to its charging station, right? So what happened? We charged up. Then we had a green, this is our green breakout candle from this range. So I said, boom, this is perfect. This is exactly what we want. So now once we got to that point, I said, okay, now 2 things can happen. Or actually 3 things can happen. So basically number 1 would be an A, B, and a C, right? So let me remove that. So, when we got up here, we could be an A, B, or C. That didn't happen. That's fine. Or it could be a rise, crash, retrace, come down for reaccumulation, go sideways against the bull market support band, basically charge up once, charge up twice, and then continue higher. That didn't happen. You know why that didn't happen? Because theta is so damn bullish. That's why. I mean, think about this. We are... how much now? We're 78. Well, we got up to about 85, but we're currently 78, 79, just say 80. We're 80% off the bull market support band, and that's exactly what we want to see. Now, we have 4 green candles in a row. We talked about yesterday, right? I mean, look at this. The week just started, and we have a big candle like that. So that could be bad and good at the same time. You kind of want the climactic part of the growth of the candle to be towards the end of the week. That way you have less time insurance, right? That something can reverse and then you don't get that close. But we'll take it. So we had 1, 2, 3, right? Just yesterday's video, and that pattern was called 3 white soldiers. I have no idea why they call that, but that's what they call it. So if you want to Google it, just type in candlestick pattern 3 white soldiers, and that's sort of what happened. And more importantly, it was one bigger than the other, and then more important than that, we got the close above this area. So usually when that happens, you get this guy right here, which is follow through, which is confirmation, because traders are waiting. Is this going to be a retracement and then we crash? Or is this going to be a breakout and we continue going up? But Sunday, we got the breakout, which confirmed to many other people that, yes, this is going to continue on. But if you're like me and you, we didn't need all that. You know why? Because we were buying all up in here, especially in here and all down in here, right? Why? Because we already knew that this was eventually going to happen, right? I would say inevitably, but you can't. You can't, because you just don't know for sure. But we knew eventually it was going to happen, regardless if it was the red path, the green path, or the purple path. And that was a tweet, by the way, that I tweeted out. I could find it and I can put put the link if you wanted to see it. But anyways, we got the breakout. So now, what does all this mean? What do we expect now? So now let's get down to business. So we have officially came back up to this guy right here. So I like to think of charts, not getting ahead of ourselves. Let's talk in I would say baby steps, but that's too small. Let's talk in like toddler steps, right? So we want to basically look at this week by week, right? So this week's job, there's two things that can happen this week. So number one, we get exactly what we want, which is this candle breaking above, right? Let me do that again. This candle breaking above this high. That's number one, right? And then also closing above this high. So that would be number one, breaking above and closing above. If that doesn't happen, it's no big deal. It's fine. Why is it fine? Because theta just broke a major milestone going back, let's see, where's this at? I'll put it right here. That's August of 2022, right? So that's a long time we've been under this line right here. So we've been under this line, right? The price is here. We're trying to break out. Boom, couldn't do it. Cupping into the resistance. Boom, couldn't do it. Cupping into the resistance. Boom, couldn't do it. Came back all the way down. Reset. Come up again. Boom, couldn't do it. Let's charge up one more time. This is our last chance. Let's go. Boom, did it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 points, right? Imagine you have a hammer and you're hitting the door once, you're not going to break it. 2, you're not going to break it. 3, you're not, it's getting weaker. It's getting weaker. And you hit it the 5th time, boom, it breaks open. So that's what happened. So now we busted through the wall, but look, now we got a stud in the wall. We got to work through this stud right here. So how are we going to get through that stud? Well, it could take some time, right? So we'll see. But basically, if we go to the 2-day chart, like I said, the first thing that can happen is breaking out, closing above. Then it would be, consolidation, maybe a back test, continue going. The other thing that could happen, which is more conservative, is to say that this right here, we're going to top out right here. Why are we topping out? Because we just hit resistance. It's normal. So then, right, you would come down A, B, and a C. Maybe it doesn't take that long, but basically you're back testing what? You're back testing this, you're back testing that, you're back testing all of this in here, right? Because you have to understand, theta broke out of a major milestone, right? Which was the supply line. So it broke the supply line, right? So now you want to come down and back test it to confirm that it was real, right? Pretty certain it is real because we have this guy right here, which is very important. But we can come down, right, or come up, break out, back test all this in here, right, and then continue higher. That's the second thing that could happen. So either 1 or 2, right? Now there are deviations from 1 and 2. For example, number 1, this thing could be so bullish, and it has blown away some time expectations for me. But if we manage to get above this, so if I zoom in here, look at this. So this is the 2-day chart, and right now we got another day to go. But if the 2-day chart were to close right where it is, we officially closed above this line here, because that's the important part. And if you hear noise in the background, you got to stick with it, because theta got to break out, but they're still doing construction. They're doing the roof, and now they worked their way into the attic, getting new insulation. Why not? So let's get back over here. So right here, right, like I said, if we close above here on a 2-day chart, boom, we got a breakout, right? Let's see what the daily is. I think the daily, let's see, the daily is a little higher. So I'll put it right there. And yep, we are still higher. So here's the candle right there. So all we want is for the daily chart to close above $1.66, 1.663, right around there. So if we can close above that, then maybe we get a little more follow through, right? So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But you got to remember, the price has just entered a liquidity zone, which means a lot of people who accumulated in here, right? Like I always talk about the big whales, right? For example, Wyckoff accumulation. They wait until price breaks resistance to then buy. But they also wait, it goes both ways. They wait until price breaks support to sell. Why? Because they know there's an ocean of liquidity just beyond the water. And here's the water line right here. So if the price can break out, and it's up here for a little while, that gives an opportunity for many people to take profits. But that's okay. That's their game. That's their trading strategy. That, they're traders. They want to make money in. They're going to make money out. But most people, I believe on YouTube are hodlers. At least from my experience, people trading the bigger cycles, right? And there's nothing wrong with taking profit. If you want to take profit today, there is nothing wrong. You should never feel ashamed of taking profit, because the worst thing that could happen is the price roll over on you and then you wish you would have taken profit. Now, for me, I haven't hit my target yet, so I'm not going to even bother taking profits, right? Because, in the mind of a trader, what you could do is, right, take some profit and wait for a little pullback. But my thing is, what if you don't get a pullback, right? Like right here, the price went up. Somebody asked me maybe 2 weeks ago in a comment, when we were here, with the A, B, and the C, that was one option, right? But was I willing to risk it and sell here to buy back here? No. Why? Because you just don't know, right? It's not worth it. It's only what? It's only from here down to here, or even worse, down to here. To me, it's not worth taking that risk. And especially now, because you're starting to break out, right? Now, I replied and I said, look, I can't give you financial advice, but I can tell you what I'm doing, and that's not taking profits, because, people have different time horizons, people have different strategies, and my strategy is waiting for that retracement, right? So my whole thing, if you've been following for the last 3+ months, is we're getting back up here at some point. Now, it could fall short, it can exceed, or it can get right in the middle. It's hard to know. But the main thing is what? Is breaking this zone here, in which we are doing now. So we broke the first out. We broke the first part, which activated the inverse head and shoulders pattern. So since we activated that pattern, then you can say, okay, what is the measured move for this pattern, right? It's a little bit subjective. You could put it to this peak or this peak. It's better to just be a little conservative. Actually, it's better to go to the weekly chart. And by the way, not only we broke the weekly, but we also broke the 2-week, which is even more important, right? So I could put that guy right there, put this right about there, and then put this line right there. So that comes in at about 260, 270. So we still got another dollar to go, right? Which is good. Now, if I did it from the wicks, from wick to wick, so I'll do it from this wick all the way up to this wick here, and I'll click that, and then I'll move this up to that wick, and then I'll put this one here, then that measured move is about $3.15. Just by doing it from the wick, you get a drastic difference in change, right? So you don't really know, is it going to hit here? Is it going to hit here? It's in the vicinity. It's not, when people give targets, it's not an exact science. It's in the vicinity of that target. Now, some people can nail them perfectly, and it's, more so than Fibonacci is a better accurate target than a measured move. But anyway, it's somewhere in this area between 250 and say 320. So we still got a ways to go before we can get there, right? So looking at the 2-week chart, we have 13 days to go. So if I put this line back on this close right here, we are engulfing out of this area, right? So, but again, we have 2 weeks to go, so we can get a big pullback by that time. But for me, it looks very bullish. We have gone up quite a bit. Let's see, we've gone up about 85%, just about, over the last few weeks. So, but also we're breaking out of resistance. And we did break out of this. We just got this to go. So now we got all that out of the way. So now, basically, that's about it. I want to see the price stay above 150, thereabouts. So actually, let me get an exact number for you. If I put that right there, about 152. So if we could stay above 152 for the next 2 weeks, that would be great. If that's not the case, it's fine. It's okay. No big deal. Why? Because we'll zoom in. Let's go to the 4-day chart. We want to stay above 141. So if we can stay above 141 for the next week, that's really good. Because then, staying above that will continue positive momentum. But that's not to say that the price can't come back down and backtest this area. It's actually a better thing. And I'm going to explain the Elliott wave part of it. So let me ask you guys a question. Do you want a big theta price or a small theta price? I would suspect most people want a big theta price. Okay, so how do you get a big theta price? Well, you need an Elliott wave of a major breakout, right? And what does that mean? Well, Elliott wave, as we know, is simple. I mean, it's actually not simple. It's much more complicated than people make it to be. But 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that is your typical impulsive wave right there. So, that's what people are used to seeing. And then what happens after that, right? You get an A, B, C, or I should actually label it A, B, C. And then what comes next? Again, same thing. You get another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then what does that become? That whole thing becomes an A, B, C. But if it wants to be more than that, because you got to understand, Elliott wave is like Fibonacci sequence, right? You have subwaves and you have microwaves, right? And you have grand supercycle waves, right? It's all, when you zoom out, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So you get another ABC, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And then what does that become? That becomes a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It just becomes a bigger wave, right? So, so basically that's it. So what am I saying here? Well, we can get a traditional 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Or if you want to go and suffer a bit, then what do you want? You want a 1, 2, 1, 2. Now, if you don't know what that is, I'm not going to get in. Just go to Google and type in Elliott wave, what is a 1212? And it'll explain exactly what it is. But basically what it is, it's very, very bullish. It could be very, very bullish or very, very bearish, depending what it's going to be. So you have a 1, 2, and this could turn into a 1, 2. In which case you get a bigger 3, right? So if this is so it would look like this. It would 1, 2, 1, 2, right? Because you could see the waves are overlapping each other, right? Versus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if you get a 1, 2, 1, 2, then you get a big 3, 4, 5. But here's the cool part. You also get another 4, 5. So it ends up being much bigger, right? You get a 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, right? So that's what I'm saying. Two things can happen. Most people want it to go now, but be careful what you wish for, because if you want it to go now, then it turns into a regular Elliott wave. But if you want to invest a little bit of time, maybe a couple weeks, right? Then we can get what? We can get a pullback. But not only we get a pullback, we also get to back test the breakout, which gives what? More confidence for traders and other people to enter the market, because you broke out and you back tested and you confirmed it by breaking resistance and back testing previous, making it the new support, right? You break out and you make it the new support, right? Because when you break out, you don't really have support until you come down and you actually confirm it, right? So if this turns into a 1, 2, which it already is, and then we get another 1, 2, right? Or it can go a little higher and then come down for another 2, right? Maybe overlap a little bit and then go up. Man, that will be so bullish. That'll be much more bullish, right? Because it's kind of like a lead-in phase, like, what can I say? Like you're bouncing a ball, one bounce, but imagine you have a ball and you bounced it again, and then you come up and bounce it even harder, then you get a bigger reaction to the upside. So either way, if we continue going, great, we're in a third wave. If we get a bigger pullback, that's even better, because why? We back test and it turns into a potential 1, 2, 1, 2. So there you go. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Those are the two options that I think is the next probable outcome, right? Now, there's always a Hail Mary. There's always an X factor, right? And that's what? Bitcoin. If Bitcoin just immediately dumps, obviously Theta will dump too, but that will give us our 1, 2, 1, 2. So, we'll have to keep an eye on it. But from when you zoom out, it looks absolutely beautiful. You have a base right here, right? A lot of people don't like sideways action, right? That's why a lot of people have given up on a lot of coins that have been sideways, especially for years. A good example for that is XRP. It's like being in torture, right? Because it literally is the most sideways coin in crypto history. Now, that doesn't sound sexy at all. So why would anybody want that, right? Well, because the bigger the base, right, the higher in space. Now, when that's the saying, but at the end of the day, this base wasn't that big, but look how massive the wave was, right? Because why? It's a new technology, it's a new market, it's a new sector, and it's theta. I mean, come on. So, and then also, market cap has a lot to do with it, right? If you have an asset that is $100 billion and it goes up 20%, that's way more than an asset that's only 5 billion and it goes up 20%, right? So it's easier to climb the mountain when you have less of a market cap than it is when you have a bigger market cap. And then, like for XRP, it's in the top 5, top 10, right? So it's much harder for it to do that climb. But still, relative to stock markets and relative to other things, they're still little babies. Even Bitcoin, right? and then if you look at the whole market as a whole, it's 2 trillion. But understand, most of that money is in Bitcoin. And then second to that is Ethereum. So if you look at the whole market cap, it's really less than 600 billion. So it's still a tiny baby. Now think about when you get regulation, think about as technology continues to be implemented, right? So anyway, you have a big base and you have your flagpole that's planted in this base, right? And then you have your flag right here. And you can see the flag has broken out, right? So let me actually do this here, right there, right? So that looks bullish. And the secret sauce is all of this in here. So yeah, it looks to me completed for something much, much bigger. Now, when we talk bigger, 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 what are we saying here? Well, it could turn into, this is wave one. So you have 1, 2, right? You have 3 and here, 4, and then a 5. So this whole thing is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that means this whole thing is 1. Then you come down, and now this whole thing is 2, right? So now we're potentially going into the third wave. So I have to scrunch this up a little bit, right? So we're potentially going into the third wave. So 1, 2, and now we're going into 3. Now I don't know where 3 can land, right? It is on log scale, so it's a little tricky, but 3, 4, and something like that, 5. Now don't pay attention to the prices like 200, and I'm just giving you a visual, right? Not trying to give price targets, because if I bring this down and I flip it to regular, it could be a lot different. So you have a 1, 2, that would be like a 3, 4, and then let's get probably, so I'll just do the Fibonacci. Here we go. So this would be better. If I do a Fibonacci sequence, the third wave, usually, this is ultra conservative, by the way. So this is the conservative route. Usually altcoins, especially ones that are extreme on their first cycle, like this one was very extreme, usually they tend to go towards their log scale target. But I'm going to go conservative and show you their linear scale target, which is right here. So this starts off wave 1, right, which you pull the Fibonacci from here, and then you pull it all the way down to the bottom, right, which gives us the 1618 at $26. So that could potentially wear between $26 and $30. So somewhere in here, right, pull back down for 4, and then hit up to 5, which is around the 2618 up to the 3, which is about almost $50. So between 40 and 47, so I'd say 45. So right there. So that's your conservative target, which would be $45 for theta. And I think that's reasonable. Let me know in the comment section if you think $45 is reasonable for this type of target based on Elliott wave. You take the 1 down to the 2, it gives you a target for wave 3, right? We don't know where wave 4 will go down. If wave 4 goes further, we could get a bigger bounce. It depends. It really depends. I don't like looking too far out because it's all speculative, right? So taking that off, I flip it to log scale, and I'll do the same thing. So I'll put it from here all the way to here, and then I'll pull it all the way down right there. So that, the 4.236, mind you, which Ethereum hit, many other coins hit their 4.236. That's about $69, between $64 and $69. I think that's very doable, especially because it's a third wave, right? So I think that's definitely in the cards. But this is all when we break out, right? And there's 2 different ways we can break out. But first, I'll show you that those two different ways. But first, let me put this on log scale. So now the targets get big, and I mean really big. Almost too big to even comprehend. Like the one-to-one extension would be the target, which is at $234. Now that is massive. Do I think it's going to happen? I have no idea. But that's the target, right? $234 for the one-to-one extension on log scale. So is it, what would the market cap be? I haven't done the math, but it'd probably be pretty big. Now, do I think it's going to happen in due time? Yeah. I think in the next, probably 5 years, it can hit it. I'm pretty sure it could. Crypto is, look at Dogecoin. It did something unbelievable. And people say, well, yeah, the market cap. And that's true. Market cap does have a lot to do with things. But understand that theta is still relatively small market cap. And then the whole market cap as a whole for crypto is relatively small. Plus, we don't even have regulation or utility implementation. So let's be conservative. I'd like to say, let's, shoot for a reasonable target. And if it exceeds it, then it's always better to be pleasantly surprised than have your expectations be like, yeah, it has to hit $100. If it doesn't, then it's S coin, right? Whatever. So let's talk about how it can get there. Now, depending how it breaks out will depend how much higher you go. So for example, you can break out like this. So this is wave one, or better yet, this is your rise, this is your crash, and then we go into a retracement. Then we come down for reaccumulation, and then we break out. If that occurs, you get a big breakout. Maybe not that big, right? But a big, big breakout, right? So that's your biggest opportunity to get a big breakout. If it happened like this, where you have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it'll still be big, but the fact that it had more consolidation in here, right, means it built up more of a volume profile. So the more volume profile you build up in this trading range here, in this trading range here, in this trading range here, you're building a massive base. You're building layers and layers of support, right? Like, you bake a cake. How many layers in the cake? Right? The more layers, the higher it rises, right? So, so it's all about, but the downside to that is it'll take more time because you have to go back into reaccumulation, which for me, I'm pretty, hardened in that field because I'm an XRP holder. So I've been like waiting for a long time. So I know what it feels like to wait that long. But essentially, it looks like this. You have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, breakout. And then what that means is you have your base here, you have another base here, and then you build another base, which is here on top of this base here. So you have 1, 2, 3. So you have the bounce up, right? So think of it as a 1, 2, right? So a 1, 2, or if it really wants to be bullish, a 1, 2, and then we come back for reaccumulation. So it'll be a 1. That would be the most bullish possible imaginable if that happened. Like ultra bullish if that happened, which is a 1, 2, 1, 2, and then we kind of go sideways, and then we can that I don't even know how to gauge that. But why am I talking about this? Because the probabilities of us getting here is a lot higher, which means the probability of us coming into reaccumulation or breaking out is a lot higher. So as probabilities increase, so does my willingness to provide futuristic price movements, right? So, because when you're down here, it doesn't feel good to talk about breaking out into new all-time high, right? Because people, a lot of times, they don't want to hear it. They feel like, it's all psychological when it comes down to it. So for me, this pattern where we broke out of and we're continuing to break out, remember, it might not go in a straight line, but it could take a couple weeks, couple months, regardless of what it is. It gives me more conviction that we are heading up here. And if that's the case, then I have more conviction of eventually breaking out of here. Because do you honestly think that Theta will never break above $15 ever again in his life? No. Otherwise, why would anybody hold it? Right? Especially since Theta is like a baby and it's finally growing. I mean, look at Amazon when it first came out. It took a major hit, but then eventually it's still rising today, right? So it's a steadily increase. Now crypto is more volatile, but that's why we're here. People say, "Oh, I don't like the volatility," but you want volatility. That's the signal that people are raging about it, right? So you have these massive swings to the upside, massive swing to the downside. It's a highly emotional market. It's not like grandma and grandpa's old stock market where it steadily goes up maybe 0.5%, 1% a day, and they feel good about it. No, this thing can rip 50% in one day and drop down 25%. But that would give grandma and grandma a heart attack. They would be like, "Oh my God, I couldn't handle it." And that's the fun and that's why that's it. And to their point, right? It is scary, but if you believe in the technology and you believe that it's ultimately going to calm down. I mean, look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin used to have massive swings to the upside and to the downside. Now it's more stable, right? Which is why I'm not even interested in it. Because if Bitcoin goes to 100K, who cares? That's a 2x. That's a 2x. If I bought Bitcoin and it goes to 100K, that's a 2x. All Theta has to do to get a 2x is just get back to this line right here, about $3.30, $3.33. So what do you think? So this is the thing with Bitcoin, people. I don't get it. I don't understand it. It's weird. So what do you, in your mind, what do you think is more probable? Seriously, this is a serious question. Do you think Bitcoin going to $100,000 is more probable than Theta simply doing this? I mean, come on. There's no, all it's got to do is get from here to here and it's done. That's like, and that's the sort of the common misconception people have as investors, not saying everybody, not saying you, right? But just in general, when people see, 50,000 to 100,000, that sounds more appealing than going from 170 to 330, right? It doesn't have that appeal to it versus 50,000 all the way to 100,000, right? But you have to ask yourself, what's more probable? For me, it's a no-brainer. This thing can easily get back up here. And that would be the equivalent of Bitcoin, you buying Bitcoin at 50 and it going to 100. You basically doubled your money. So, and then you say, well, Bitcoin can go to 200,000. Well, if that's the case, then, well, real quick, I mean, Bitcoin's here. Now, it has to get all the way up there to hit 100K. So I guess when you look at it from the chart, yeah, it looks possible, and it could happen, and I could be wrong. Bitcoin can hit 100K quicker than Theta can hit that. But here's the thing. Here's the big, big, big thing. If Bitcoin does hit 100K, what do you think Theta is going to do? No. Seriously, if Bitcoin hits 100K, what do you think Theta is going to do? Do you think it's going to chill out at 330? No. It's going to freaking go massively, right? So that's what I'm saying. So it's like you win if you do, you win if you don't, right? So that's why I'm not, if Bitcoin hits 100K, I would still rather be in theta, right? Or if Bitcoin comes short, I would still rather be in theta. If Bitcoin dumps, then I would add to my theta position because eventually it's not going to dump anymore, right? Because you got to look at the big picture. And when you zoom out on the big picture, we are steadily going higher, right? So now with Bitcoin, a lot could happen, right? I've talked about that. This could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, go. Or it could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Or it could be a 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But in the fifth, we have a 1, 2. When we come down for reaccumulation, then we go, right? So it really depends. The higher this thing goes, I'm sorry, the higher, but also the faster it goes, the more scary it becomes for me, because you don't want this thing to go too fast. Because if that happens, for example, like you needed this sideways consolidation to get this breakout. You need another sideways consolidation to get this breakout. And then now it's like it's still pumping. But you want a little more sideways consolidation if you want to go for the full breakout. Just like back over here. So you have this first one here, second one here, right? Third one here, and then even a smaller one here. So you break out, go sideways, break out, go sideways, break out, go sideways. Then you go, right? So that sidewaysness, you're charging your batteries on the bull market support band, and then you're also giving more confidence and conviction that it's going to go up. But if you just fly up like this guy right here, he's going up, 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 then you come back down, right? So you kind of want to, zooming out, it still looks fine. There's nothing wrong with it. We are getting pretty high. I never thought Bitcoin can get this high that fast. So this is always good. And what does that mean? I'm pleasantly surprised. I'm not like expecting this and then it doesn't come. I'd rather not expect it and it come. And you say, well, you're just fooling yourself. No, you're changing your psychology because, it's an emotional game. When you put money in, the slot machine, it's different than putting your money in the stock market. When I go to Vegas and I look at everybody putting their money in a slot machine, I just shake my head like, I don't get it. Your probability of winning is so little, but at least if you put your money in crypto, you have a 50-50 chance of winning, right? So you can either long the market or you can short the market. So it's either going to go up or down. So I like my odds better with crypto. So where are we with the Fibonacci? If I pull this down here, wow, we just cleared the 702. We have one more to go, which is the 786. If we can clear 57, we are looking down the barrel of a all-time high for Bitcoin. And do you know what that means? That means you're looking at an all-time high for Theta. It could happen this year, right? It could happen this year. But here's the thing. I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm still going to stick to my guns and believe that that's not the case. Because my primary idea, right, I've given three ideas, which is up, A, B, C, go. That doesn't look like it's going to happen. So the other idea would be a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, go. So you build your base, you build another base, then you go, right? Another idea, which is the final idea, which is the most bullish idea, is this is a part of a fifth wave. And this is wave 1, 2, and now we're in the middle of 3, 4, and 5. So now if I had to choose, it's looking like this is the case, right? So, wow. This is really good for altcoins. Now, if that doesn't happen and Bitcoin starts to tank, That is perfectly fine with me. Why? Because then at that moment, Bitcoin is then establishing a range, which is what we want. So let's say it gets a little higher. Let's say it gets up to 55, 50, or let's say it gets to 60 or whatever. And then it starts to come down, right? We start to come down. That's fine. Why? Because then we backtest the bull market support band. The reason why I didn't like this run is because, look, we never backtested the bull market support band. We broke out, but look right here. We never backtested it. That's why when we were here, I said I wanted to backtest, because looking ahead, you can see this. If this were to occur, now we wish we would have had backtested it, because we're getting too extended away from the bull market support band. And what's happening now is you can see how the bull market support band's going flat, but then it starts to curl. And when it curls, then that's how you lose it, because if we do come back down, you have more of an incline and it would be harder to catch it, if you get my drift. But even if we don't catch it, it's okay. We come back down, and then we oscillate back up. We come back down, we oscillate back up. So what is that doing? That can either turn into reaccumulation and then go, or it can turn into distribution. We come back down and then backtest this area, then go. Be rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, go. So who cares, right? At the end of the day, if this happens, alts are going to catch up, right? So here's the price of theta side by side, right? You could see, right, Bitcoin gradually moving up, right? And then if we go sideways, then we can catch up. If we don't go sideways, we're still going to catch up, right? But if you look, like I've showed this many times, zooming out here, you can see clear as day, Bitcoin's going up, theta going sideways. But then look, right when Bitcoin starts to top out, that's when that's when theta instantly catches up. And it only takes 4 weeks and boom, it's there. So regardless of what happens, that's what I'm trying to say, regardless of what happens with Bitcoin, I still think, since Bitcoin is so high above its bull market support band and above its base here, right? Even if it does come down, it still has to have a dead cat bounce, right? And that dead cat bounce could lead to a big move like this. We come down, we come down, we come up, and then we reach. And now we're both tied. Now we're both coins are at the retracement levels. Then that's where the decision lies. Do we continue higher, or do we go down for reaccumulation, then continue higher, right? Either way, I think it's primed. Now, there is one big X factor other than that, and that is the stock market and black swan event and election year. So that's what sort of makes me tiptoe around this, right? I'm always, and that's what I've been doing. I tiptoe around this because I don't want to be overly bullish, overly optimistic, but I also don't want to be, I don't want to ignore the facts. And the facts are that this is very bullish right in here, right? So this year is very interesting because we have an election year. We have, not just that, but there's war going on, not just with guns and bullets, but information, right? We live in an information war. This is real news. No, this is fake news. No, this is real news. No, it's this narrative. No, it's this narrative. It's this agenda. It's this agenda. It's all piling in, and it's all coming to a head, and it's going to cause massive volatility in people's lives. And you can sense it in the air. And when that happens, when people become irrational, they make irrational decisions. And then when investors see the world in chaos, they make irrational decisions. So, but then you also have the Fed and the inflation, and then there's so many different things. It's like a mad scientist in his lab putting all these chemicals together, and blindfolding himself thinking, what's going to happen? We don't know what's going to happen. And that's sort of the interesting part of it all. So whatever happens, I'm here on the ride. I'm riding along with you, and I'm trying to enjoy every step and take it from there and hope for the best, but prepare for the worst. So I think that should do it. I mean, looking at H bar, right? H bar did the same thing theta did, right? And that's another reason why I think we're continuing to head up. If you look at, for example, total 3, this is what I think theta is going to do. So if total 3 can do it, why not theta, right? So we broke above. This is where theta is battling right here at this high right here. And if I move it across, you can see right here, we broke out and then we back tested this area. Then we're continuing higher. So if we do the same with theta, what's the difference, right? So it's right here. I'm going to put this line right here and I'll come right across. And look how much bigger it is too, by the way. So what happened with total 3? We broke out, we back tested, and we continued higher. So that could be an idea of what's going to happen, right? So either we back test this in here, continue higher, or we break out of here and then just sort of waddle around and then continue higher. Just like this right here, which we've talked about for the longest time, right? So we could be at that final area where we break out, we waddle around, then continue up. We break out, we waddle around, then continue up. So we'll see. We'll see how it all plays out. I think this is one of the most important updates of this year, and the year's just getting started. So I'll wrap it up with this. Raise your hand if you're ready for the next theta expansion phase. I am currently raising my hand, and shout out to Theta Leviathan. I think that's how you pronounce it. I apologize if that's not. But Theta Leviathan, appreciate you for sharing my videos and getting momentum out there for a young channel like mine. I really appreciate that. Thank you. And if you haven't already, you can follow me on X. I really don't like this platform. This is my 3rd account. I've had to start over 3 times on Twitter, now X, even under Elon, right? I don't know why. All I do is I share charts, and don't know why they banned me. Have no clue. But you could see I joined in September of 2023, but I've been on here for probably at least 7-8 years, and I built up a following, and then boom, it got crushed. But so I'm like, all right, and I built it up again, and then boom, it got crushed again. Have no clue why. But anyways, if you wanted to follow me, I don't really post much, just the videos on here. If you want to watch an amazing documentary, go to YouTube, type in The Money Masters, The Rise of the Bankers. This documentary will put crypto in perspective like never before. And it's an old school documentary. Remember back, if you're a 90s baby like me, or even the 80s, I was born in 92. So if you're born in that time, you know, when the teacher put the old VHS tape in, it's kind of like that, but it's so intriguing, and it's really good how they break down the history of money in the banks and how it all formulated into what it is today. And when you sort of look at the total corruption behind the scenes, it's just like, wow, it's insane. And then it just validates crypto even more. So I think I'll wrap it up here. If I'll probably do like a rapid fire. I think some people like that, so I might do another rapid fire series sometime this week, maybe tomorrow or the next day. But I do want to get XRP video coming because I see it's starting to look interesting here from this fractal perspective. I mean, boom, 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 right? Down, down. And then you can see sort of in here, we're just sort of right at that finish line. So who knows? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. We'll talk about it next video, and we'll do a rapid fire. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for tuning in and watching the video. We got it. We got the theta breakout. This is this is a good thing. This is what we wanted. This is what happened. And let's continue the momentum. And yeah, so I will catch you in the next video. Cheers.